The man was partying, celebrating the win before the fight even happened. He apologized to his opponent days before the fight that he was going to knock him out, predicted he was going to win by knockout in the first round. Ilia Topuria is now the new lightweight champion, knocking out Charles Oliveira in the first round, exactly as he said he was going to. He said that Charles Oliveira's aggressive style was going to cause this kind of collision between them two, which will result in a knockout. And that's exactly what happened.
The only thing I know for sure is that I'm going to knock him out in the first round or submit him in the first round, because he walks forward. I'm not going to need to close the distance with him. Since the first moment, we are going to find each other in the center of the octagon. So, yeah, it's going to be a first round finish.
Oliveira walked into the short right hand of Ilia Topuria and KO'd him out cold. The likes we've never seen from Oliveira in the lightweight division. Fighting monsters like Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler. Big, powerful punchers. None of them were able to do that to Charles, and all of them dropped him. All of those guys floored Oliveira. And what did Ilia say in the press conference he had for himself? He said if he drops Oliveira, he is not getting up, as he hits harder than all of those guys.
Ilia, if you look at Charles's most famous fights, right? Dustin, Gaethje, the two Chandler fights, he gets dropped in each fight. But he comes back and he wins those fights. So when you see that, do you look at it and go, man, if these guys drop him, I'll get him? Or do you look and think, man, if I hurt him, I still have to be very, very careful because he always comes back and wins?
If I hurt him, he's not going to have the chance to come back. Because my power is completely different than the other guys you mentioned before.
And it seems to be so. Ilia Topuria, moving up from featherweight to lightweight, may also be the most powerful puncher in that weight class as well, and pretty much won off of fundamental boxing skills, where he was constantly getting off the center line, where Oliveira does his best work at. Jabs, straights, and teeps are some of Oliveira's best attacks, and Ilia always made sure to sidestep to his left, so he could defend his chin behind his jab. Rising that punch is going to guard his chin with the shoulder, and that was mostly of what he was throwing, as somewhat of a feeling out process during the first round. But those were not just snapping jabs from distance like he's flicking them out there. A lot of those were power jabs, stepping with his body weight behind those to deliver with as much power as he can. And they were beating up Oliveira's face. Oliveira's face was already a mess before the knockout from those jabs. There was a lot of power in everything Ilia was throwing. But Oliveira did a very good job of countering the jab in moments by throwing his leg kick. This can slightly get his head on the inside of the jab, and as Ilia is stepping forward, it makes that lead leg vulnerable to the leg kick. And that was mostly of what Oliveira was throwing as well. So a lot of it was the jab versus the leg kick. And it was one of the attacks that Oliveira was throwing to intercept that lateral movement of Ilia, because Ilia is usually sidestepping when he's throwing punches. But Oliveira wanted to keep the leg kicks going, so he'll throw teeps out there to keep range between him and Ilia, chopping down on those leg kicks. Another reason why it's so effective against Ilia is because he's so heavy on that front leg. It's difficult to check a leg kick from that lowered stance. Not only from this fight, but also when he fought Alexander Volkanovski as well. Volk was landing leg kicks too. But there was a moment where Oliveira threw the front kick, right? He threw that teep forward, and Ilia sidesteps on the outside of it and tries to counter with the jab, and Oliveira pushes away at him. There was another moment where Ilia changed the way that he threw the jab, so he would fake it first to trigger the reaction of Oliveira to close his guard on the center. Then he would fire out the jab when Oliveira opens up the guard, accumulating more damage throughout the fight. Then he switched it up and threw a jab to the body instead, as Oliveira thought it was going to be another jab to the head, as it usually was. You can see how Oliveira's guard is up high, leaving an opening to the body. And the thing about all of these jabs is giving the shorter fighter in Ilia Topuria more confidence in his distance to get on the inside and land the shots that he needs, as well as when he moves away from Oliveira to counter him. He has the measurement of his punches up until the point of the knockout. Now, getting into that knockout, there's another sequence that happened at the beginning of the fight that was very similar to this sequence. And Oliveira actually had a better attack than what he threw. So going to the knockout sequence first, and then to the similar one before. So he enters in with another jab. It lands it flush. Power jab, leaning into it. Look how his rear leg is off of the mat. His body weight is leaning forward into the jab, blasting into the face of Oliveira. And you can see how Oliveira's head whiplashes to the side from that punch. Very powerful shot from Ilia. But Ilia, instead of staying in the pocket where he does his best work, he's the best pocket striker in the UFC, but instead he disengages and moves away from Oliveira at a slight angle. Look how he angles slightly to the left as he moves away from Oliveira. He enters in on this angle, look at his rear leg, and then moves out slightly the other way. And Oliveira moves forward, just like a bull versus a matador. No pun intended, but that's exactly how Ilia played this. Usually he's the one who's constantly moving forward and trying to knock his opponent out, but he knocked out Oliveira, moving away from him instead of at him. As soon as Oliveira fakes the jab to line up his right hand, that's when Ilia plants himself to counter with his own right. But he doesn't plant in that position. He sidesteps his left leg to the left side, just like he did the entire fight. He fakes his own jab, measuring for his right hand, and that slight sidestep off of the center line gets Ilia on the outside of the right straight from Oliveira. Oliveira was attacking on the center line like he usually did. Ilia sidestepped off of the center line, got himself on the perfect angle, and fired out that right hand. And you could see Charles did not see the punch at all. Charles dropped his left guard when he threw that right straight. The hand is up to defend himself, and then a split second later, he drops that left guard, and the punch goes right through that opening and knocks him out. If Charles kept that hand up, he would have blocked that punch. As they say, this is a game of inches. If Oliveira just kept that hand up a few inches higher, did not drop that hand at all, he would have blocked that knockout shot. But he thought he was going to land his own right straight. It seemed so confidently so that he dropped his defenses, and Ilia colded him with a short right straight, left hook follow-up, and when Charles drops on the ground, he hits his chin on his own knee, then lands 2 super necessary ground and pound shots, as we saw another one of those with Hermanson vs. Rodriguez. This was the most concussive loss in Oliveira's career, securing the win in the first round for Ilia Topuria, acting almost like a bull in his fights, but now he actually got a knockout as the Matador, and we might see more of that in the lightweight division as his bigger opponents want to walk him down and try to overpower him if they can. None of them really can, I think. And it just goes to show you that Ilia's footwork is very underrated. It's not flashy, he doesn't move around all over the octagon and stuff. He's not like a Michael Venom Page, but he takes necessary steps to land his shots at all of his knockouts with fundamental, effective technique. And there's a big difference when a fighter sees the punch versus when they don't. Like here, Ilia threw a right overhand, and Charles saw the punch. He started moving his head away from it. Ilia lands the shot, and then he lands another one. Both times though, Charles saw the punch and didn't get knocked out from them. One shot in the finishing sequence knocked him out. That's the difference when a fighter sees the punch versus when they don't see the punch. It's a lot easier to result in a knockout if they don't see that big shot. So then we go to this moment in the fight. This is very similar to the sequence that Ilia knocked out Oliveira in. So Oliveira moves forward. He steps in long and throws a jab, and Ilia's reaction is the exact same thing. He steps to the left and tries to counter Oliveira with his right hand as Oliveira's walking into it. And you see Oliveira throwing his right. Ilia's off of the center line. He's on the left angle. The perfect shot to land his right hand. But Oliveira threw an elbow instead of a right straight, intercepting the left side step from Ilia and wins the exchange. Elbow to the face, knocks Ilia's right hand off target, glancing off the forehead of Oliveira. And crazy enough, he does extend his right straight through, so it is possible that he wanted to throw a right straight and flared out his elbow when he threw it and accidentally land the elbow instead. Possibly, because he did extend the punch all the way through, but he could have thrown the elbow on purpose as well, so it was a very similar exchange to the knockout. But Oliveira won that one. There was another moment in the beginning of the fight where Oliveira enters in, fakes like he's going to throw a shot. Ilia reacts by lowering his levels, and then he counters with a slight step to the left, not as much with the knockout sequence, but throws a jab and tries to line up his right hand. Oliveira exits on his own left angle, slipping the punch of Ilia Topuria. Some of the better defense we've seen out of Charles Oliveira. There also was a takedown in the fight from Charles Oliveira, who has improved his wrestling a lot throughout his career, but he was trying to take down Ilia from the clinch off of a body lock, and that's where Ilia's wrestling expertise is at. He's a Greco-Roman wrestler, very strong in the clinch, and it's hard to trip him out, it's hard to throw him from the clinch or anything like that, and you saw how he reversed the position on Charles Oliveira, got into his guard, passed it very simply by pushing down on the leg, stepping around it. It was getting into the crucifix position, but Oliveira escaped it by hooking onto Ilia's right leg with his own left, creating space for his right leg to get underneath it. So he has a wrap around Ilia's right leg, elevating him and then pushing him off. Goes for the leg lock, which Ilia was pulling away from. But Charles is one of the best fighters in the world at tangling the legs and not allowing his opponent to totally escape the position, so then he could follow up on it. It was difficult for Ilia to escape it until he landed the right hand. Just that ground and pound shot allowed him to escape the leg entanglement, and ultimately they stood up after. So just an amazing performance from Ilia Topuria. First round knockout. Is he the best fighter in the world? Maybe. No one's ever done that to Charles at lightweight. And the UFC showed 3 opponents for him: Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, and Arman Tsarukyan. And out of all 3 of them, they walked in Paddy Pimblett, who in my opinion doesn't deserve the title shot as much as those 2, but it is a bigger fight. And Justin Gaethje must have been very upset when they walked in Paddy Pimblett instead of him. As much as he was talking about getting a title shot and he'll fight nobody else unless it's for a lot of money, they were building up the Paddy Pimblett fight instead of the Justin Gaethje fight. Now Arman Tsarukyan, Dana talked about him and said that he's not going to get the next title shot, so he would have to fight someone next. But I would think Paddy Pimblett, off of a Michael Chandler win, is not enough to get a title shot. As big as the fight is, I think if it's not Arman, and I think Paddy needs another win, they could give it to Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje did beat Rafael Fiziev, and 3 fights ago beat Dustin Poirier. Honestly, none of these guys are really deserving of a title shot. I'd like to see them fight each other, but we'll see what happens with Islam and JDM. Maybe Islam moves down and he fights Ilia, because I would like to see Arman Tsarukyan versus Paddy Pimblett for the #1 contender. Maybe they get the title shot to Gaethje. I don't know. I don't think any of those guys beat Ilia Topuria. I think he starches Paddy Pimblett. He's more hittable than Charles Oliveira is. Just being big and long is not enough to beat Ilia. Arman Tsarukyan, I think, has the best chance out of those guys to win, just because of how strong his wrestling is. He's also very explosive in the stand-up. I think Justin Gaethje gets KO'd in the first round. Arman is the fighter I could see lasting the longest with Ilia. I think he can go into like the 3rd or 4th rounds before he gets finished. All the other guys, first or second round knockouts. Honestly, it seems like if there is a fighter who can, it's only Islam Makhachev, and I don't know who would win that fight. It's the highest skilled matchup ever in the UFC. But now with the 3 best win streak in UFC history, Ilia Topuria is looking unstoppable out there. 2-weight world champion. He's still undefeated. Only 2 decision wins in the UFC, knocking almost everybody out. This guy is absolutely taking over the UFC with these performances. So amazing win for Ilia Topuria, and I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. If you guys did, make sure to give it a like, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.